Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound, brought to you by saas.group. I'm your host, I'm Dana, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. And today with me is Sumit, founder of Paket, portfolio tracking and visualization tool. They're based in Germany, bootstrapped from day one, and were actually referred to me as the most exciting bootstrappers in town. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, happy to be here.
Sure, anytime. So, yeah, first things first. Paket started in a bit of a different way, or like in a more indie hacker way for you. So, could you maybe talk a little bit about the whole story, the inspiration behind the product, and yeah, how it was born?
Yeah, sure. I basically started solving my own problem. I was starting to take care of my own finances, personal finances, because I was in tech. I was a programmer. I earned a good salary, but everything went out the window. I had no savings and nothing. I looked at other people, how they do it, how they, I don't know, buy houses and things like that. And I was thinking I'm doing something wrong. So I started with taking care of my personal finances, paying off debt, saving, and then starting investing. When I started investing in ETFs, buying stocks and things like that, I wanted to track it. I'm a front-end developer, or I was a full-time front-end developer. I like dashboards. I like tracking stuff also for, fitness and all. I think if you want to reach a goal, you need to track it and see progress, and it motivates. So I wanted the same for my wealth building, basically, and my investments. So I started my own little tool, or I programmed my own little tool to track my specific strategy. And yeah, it was a side project, a hobby project, and I then opened it up, and it basically started to gain some traction. I got more users, and I tested how far I can push it. Obviously, I had a wish where it could go, but I honestly, I if you would have asked me when I started if it would get this big, I wouldn't have believed it. So I'm quite glad how it turned out so far.
All right, wonderful. That's quite a usual already on this podcast. Like, how did you start it? I wanted to solve my own problem, and instead of doing like normal people do, just give up, you started building your own tool. So that's super exciting. And yeah, it started as a side project. You also had a full-time job, but then you moved on. Like, at what point did you decide that okay, I'm going to leave my job and going to do it full time? Was the company ramen profitable at this time, or how long did it take to get there?
Ramen profitability. So for me, it was like I had a little bit of a, let's say, higher living standard because I earned very well, living with my wife, kid on the way. So it was not like I can live off of €1,000 a month or something, or maybe I could, but we would have had to cut back quite a bit, and that always hurts. Cutting back always hurts. So there was a specific, let's say, living standard that needed to be supported. And it took me quite a while to finish my job for multiple reasons, or to quit my job. I was employed at Stripe at a time, and they pay very well. It's a fantastic company, in my opinion. I was learning so much. So this was a very big thing, and I was proud to work at Stripe as well. So there was just so many factors that went into the decision. And I quit when I wasn't able to just handle it anymore. There were thousands of users already. There was already a team. Like, we were already way beyond 20K MRR when I started to quit. So way beyond ramen profitability. And I quit not because I thought now is the right time, but I quit because I just couldn't do both anymore, mentally and physically. It was too taxing on everything else and on myself. And I realized in a moment of reflection in December, like right around this time, 2 years ago,
Mhm.
or yeah, 2 years ago, that I had to change something. Either I shut it down, or I take the plunge. I take the jump and try it. So basically, the next workday, I quit. And then it took
Okay.
a few more months because of in Germany you have like 3-4 months notice period. So it took a few more months. So in summer 2022, I had my first day full time at my own company, with being employee number 5. So
Okay.
yeah, took a little bit of time.
All right, super fun. I really like that story. But also, you were bootstrapped from day one, like I mentioned
Yes.
before. But you decided to stay bootstrapped, even though for fintech projects, it's usually not the case. Like if
Mhm.
they can be scaled with money, people prefer to go after the VC funding. So, what was the decision? Yeah, like what did you base your decision on to keep on going as a bootstrap company?
Yeah, so there are multiple factors to this as well, of course. First of all, let's talk about the obvious one, which is founder return. So why do you want to go VC? Why do you want to go big? And at the end of the day, most founders try, at least in my perception, most founders think it's the way to go and they have to make it big. And I think the founder return is the same. If you have a if you can build a $10 million or 10 million company and you own 100% of it, and then you sell it, you have the same return as if you have a 100 million company and 10% of it. But one is much more likely than the other. And I think building a small company is so much more likely to succeed. If you are able to let's say build a company to 3 million ARR, 3 million revenue per year, you have a you have a company that can change your life as a founder from the cash flow, from an exit, whatever, it doesn't matter. But this will be a company that changes your life for the better. At least you can design it this way. But it will fail in a VC case because it's not enough return for the VC. So I don't like, or I disagreed with the concept of building something that people want, that generates revenue, that could be profitable, could be successful, but having it fail because there are some people that expect a higher return. I just didn't like that concept at all. Then the freedom part, I don't like I see these stories where people are pushed out, where founders are pushed out from investors, from a board. OpenAI, good example just now.
Yeah.
Like all these things, I don't like that at all. I want to be in control. I want to be in the driver's seat of my own destiny, basically. And if there are other people that have more say than I have in my own company, then I'm just employed again with a different title, and I don't do the hustle for being employed again. So I wouldn't rule out investors at the end of the day, but I mean there are great examples of founders who still have control. But yeah, I at the end of the day, I'm building a company because I think I can do it in a certain way, and if I fail,
Mhm.
that's fine. I will learn, try again. So I like to be in the driver's seat if I'm going down that route. And the third reason is it necessary or not? For some companies, like Stripe is a good example. If you build a payment company, you absolutely need VC funding because you can't just build it on your own, and you need enterprise sales and you have long sales plans, things like that. So it's a huge thing with regulation and everything. So you need to be funded, and that's fine. But most companies don't. Most companies don't need funding to get started, or at least to validate the business, which is a much better way, by the way, a much better position to be in when you raise. If you have already validated the business and have product market fit and things like that. And there's the reason that founders don't have all the skills required to move the business to a product market fit stage. And I was arrogant enough to think I can program. I'm okay with I think I'm okay with creating good user experience. And there is stuff I have to learn: marketing, sales. I was in management before, so building a team, of course, you always have to learn stuff. But I was willing to learn all of that. I was willing to, to wear many hats. And at the end of the day, don't program anymore, but do everything that is required. And so I thought I should be able to acquire all the skills during that to bring it to market, create an MVP, and validate the idea. So there was no reason to take external funding except for getting more people on board before I even knew it would work. So I like the sustainable, healthy way of growing a company, growing a product, etc., than the all in or fail. That is,
Mm.
I don't like that.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Perfect. Well, I want to come back a little bit to what you said at the beginning. You said you were building a product for yourself, for your own pains, and then you just kind of opened it and people started coming. And that's, it sounds incredible, right? An overnight success almost. But that step, right, from zero to one, usually is the hardest, right? Where do you start? Like, where do you get those people who open the, who find your tool in the first place? So, what was it for you? What was the magic last step to your success?
Yeah, obviously it's not build it and they will come. That does not happen. It's also something I would advise any founder to take care of marketing even before you start building. Not necessarily something I did like that, but I tried. So I shared the journey of building like many indie hackers do, which attracted a few, like let's say 10 interested people who would try this, who want to try this. But at the end of the day, I try to find out during the launch phase, where is my target customer base hanging out? These are, and I niche down quite a bit. I didn't say all of the people that want to invest are my market. I said I want an MVP, and in this niche, I want to be good. So this is basically investors that invest in stock only in Germany, only from a specific bank, in this case Comdirect. Why? Because I was there and I supported the import of their data, and only that. And where do their customers basically hang out? So I targeted very, very specific, also only in Euro and things like that. I limited down all of the dimensions, how you could grow it, so I can build it in 3 months, basically. And then I wondered where they hang out. And there are forums on the internet for stocks, German forums. The bank has their own forum, community forum. Reddit, there is a subreddit for German finance. And I went into all those and posted, hey, I'm Sumit. I had this problem. I built a solution and I would love to know what you think about it. So I didn't try to sell anything. There was no paid version at the time. And I simply wanted feedback. And then I get a few hundred signups, and they tried it, they liked it. I got a lot of feedback. Obviously, some didn't like it, but yeah. And then I iterated on that feedback. And 2 months later, I just added a pro feature and a subscription price, and checked if anybody would be willing to pay for it. And when the first euro came in, that was the magic moment where I thought there could be a business there, because I didn't know if people would be willing to pay for this kind of product.
Right.
Yeah, and since then it started to grow, and I basically added. I'm working very close. The whole team is working very close with the community and adding what they need, and listening to customer feedback every day. Yeah, it's really nice to work so closely with the customers.
Right, right. I think that that's usually like the hack, so called, right, to actually figure out what the product should be. But you also had a really interesting case of growing your brand awareness and getting new customers and users. It was working with influencers, and when I first learned about that, I was like, okay, that's really interesting, and they weren't affiliates too. So can you elaborate a little bit? What was the strategy there, and how did you come up with it in the first place?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a little bit unique to this product, but I thought about how do I get new customers in? Obviously, there are the classical marketing ways, but I'm not an expert in marketing at all. And I would say if I try SEO, if I try paid ads and things like that, I will spend a lot of energy, time. That was the most valuable resource at the time, and money. And I don't know if I can compete with different fintechs that are B2C fintechs that are targeted at the same audience and things like that. So I thought there are active conversations going on in the German community, probably in every country, about investing. What stocks do you invest in? What do you do? And there are influencers that show their portfolios. They show screenshots of other tracking tools that are there. They show screenshots of their bank portfolio, the online banking of their portfolios, and things like that. And that's how they facilitate conversation and show what they do. So I thought, if I'm able to create a tool that is the best for influencers, not only to use themselves as users and track their portfolios across banks and things like that, but also for them to share with their audience, then they will share my tool. They will be the ones that spread basically the tool. Because if an influencer, usually if they show a screenshot of, I don't know, just a list of the stocks that they own, and it looks nice, and it's not a typical banking UI, people will ask, hey, what's that tool you're using? And that's basically what I thought will enable my early growth. So I built sharing into it. You can create a portfolio, you can plug all your data in, and then you can simply say, I want to share it in relative mode. In relative mode, that means you only see percentages and all absolute values are hidden. So you don't see you have 50,000 euros, you only see you have 10% performance in this time frame and so on. And the absolute way where you see everything. So you share everything. Those two modes, and or you have your portfolio private. That's the default, of course, and it worked great. Influencers started using it. They started to use the links in their descriptions, send it to their users, and it started facilitating online conversations about wealth tracking, wealth building, investing, and so on. And so I basically ignored marketing the first 2 years because of that, and it went very well. But it's also very unique to this product. It's not necessarily something you can repeat for every business.
Right. Okay. Well, then you started going a bit more into classical, let's say, marketing, right? You started building your SEO strategy and content marketing. So, what made you do that? Did anything change? Did you decide that, in order to scale, you just needed to be out there and you needed to be able to find Paquette also on Google and whatnot? Or was there other reason, and how did you start it, and what are the results now?
Yeah, so at some point, growth, I mean, growth was always good. When big influencers start to, to promote it or use it, obviously at some point we started to introduce an affiliate program. When we saw big influencers just using it, I was just reaching out and say, hey, thank you for using it. That's awesome. Hey, how about we, make an affiliate deal so you also get a cut and things like that. So that's how the first affiliate partnerships started. But at some point, growth, or I felt dependent on favors, kind of. It was more like the affiliate. I don't know if the affiliate commission was that big, but other companies came in. There were copycats, competitors starting, and things like that, and they raised VC funding, so they had a lot of money and they threw it on the influencers. So I basically was dependent
Okay.
on the goodwill, kind of influencers, and I thought a business needs if a business is validated, it needs not only to show that the business model works and there is money coming in and it's profitable, but also that you can grow. You have a self-controlling customer acquisition cost. And I wanted to be able to have, or let's put it this way, the VC case would be if I would go to a VC and say, look, this is our customer acquisition strategy. I know that if you give me 1 million now, I can return 5 million in 3 years or whatever. So I wanted a clear strategy where I can throw money at it and grow it, or at least control it myself with some lever to know I can get more customers. And the influencer game was not it, because Paquette was basically known, and we needed a better way, a more a way that we control to gain new customers. So that's why when I started to look into classical marketing, I mean, influencer marketing is not that uh,
Yeah.
not that of a invention. Like, it's not special at all. Everyone can do it. But yeah, I looked into classical marketing. I hired someone for the team for marketing, and then we went into the usual stuff. It's a freemium tool, so obviously email is a big factor. We started with SEO, with the full knowledge that this will be a long-term thing. So we just said, okay, let's do every week we will do something for SEO. That could be blog posts, that could be programmatic SEO, etc. So we started that in 2022, Q2 summer, I think, maybe, or Q1, Q2, sometime around that. And we didn't do paid ads at the time. We do now, but we didn't start with that in the beginning. And we started to do social media. So our social media channels were basically just me, every now and then posting something. But we hired someone for social media, took the community more seriously, and by now we also have a YouTube channel that is, I would say, relatively successful. It's not successful in the sense of it's a big YouTube channel and you earn money with it, but
Mhm.
we do have a live stream every Friday, a Friday fireside, where I talk about basically everything behind the curtain of Parquet, what we are doing. I show sneak peeks. We talk about the market. We look at portfolios, things like that. And it's watched a few thousand times, which is a success in my book. And the YouTube channel is growing as well. So yeah, we did many things. And what are the results so far? I mean, because we are a freemium tool, I would say for all freemium tools, the free version is kind of the biggest marketing lever. People can try it out, and once they try it out, you have a lot of time to upsell them, to convince them, or show them that the pro version, the next version, the first paid plan might be beneficial to them. So that is one big factor. Email works great, SEO works great, by now at least, yeah. And what doesn't work that great is paid ads. So we tried that. We still try a little bit with pretty low budget, but it's highly competitive, of course, and it's hard to track. It's really like tracking is the most difficult part when you want to comply to the EU cookie laws and things like that, and tracking laws. So it's really hard to make that profitable and be certain of it, like from a tracking perspective. And there are a few other things we try out, but SEO, email, and the freemium model are the big ones that we I think work great for us and that we will continue to focus on.
Right, right. We were talking with Hendrik Lenners, is the founder of Unlock Growth in Berlin, and yeah, we were reminiscent about like it's not 2016 any longer. Like you cannot track all the data. Like those were the golden days, right? And
Yeah.
now, truly, yeah, if you do any ads, it's a bit more pain than anything else. But yeah, so okay, so you leverage the product led growth, right? And you're in B2C. But I also know that you're gradually moving to B2B. And could you maybe talk a little bit about the way you're doing it and if you're adding to it any kind of sales led motions or changing the product or your approach to customer acquisition in any way at all?
Yeah, so this is super early. We are a B2C product and a B2C company, but I wouldn't necessarily say that we are moving to B2B, but including it in a product portfolio. So
Right.
it's not that we want to move away from B2C or something. So the first thing I always look at is, do we have assets that are not monetized yet? Like we are on our way to 1 million ARR. Hopefully we will reach this year, maybe in January, something like this. And I'm thinking about what is required to go to 10 million ARR. That's like every now and then I'm trying to, build the bigger picture and look at how we could go there. And I don't think the uh, staying in our niche would be that. There are a lot of growth opportunities. We could internationalize. We could, go into a lot of different assets. We could also go into B2B. We could go more into the tech infrastructure space. Like there is a lot of possibilities where we could go. But as a bootstrapper, obviously, I'm looking for the low risk, high return stuff first, or at least the things that I can try fast. And if we have an asset and I can, without having the team to build something for 6 months, I can try out if that works, simply packaging our tool differently and going into B2B. That is an easy or a low effort thing that we can try. So that's why we have business plans right now. We saw that companies are using Parquet already in the private version, basically. So we said, okay, let's expose ourselves to businesses more by offering business plans, by offering dedicated support for them, so we can talk to them and see how they use it, what do they have different requirements, what makes it different, and then we can see if it's worth it or not. So this is still something we are exploring. There are more ideas we have, but obviously the potential in the B2B space is far bigger than in the B2C space. So it would be foolish not to try it. I don't know if this will be something that is bigger than the B2C part in the future, or if it's, 50-50 or whatever. I have no idea, but definitely something we are trying. And so far, it looks promising, but also obviously I mean, there are a few things you need to do differently, right? You have sales now instead of marketing. You have much more direct calls. You need to be in, some sales calls or customer calls. Um, yeah, so it's a different game, and I think everybody knows who knows the difference between B2B and B2C. So there are a few things you need to do differently. But yeah, as a bootstrapper again, we try to look at the low hanging fruits first and see
Yeah.
if you can do something there that's worth it.
All right. So it seems like you again started from, talking with the customers, seeing like what they want and what you could do to them, what kind of value you could bring, and then start building it. Okay,
Exactly.
that makes sense. All right, perfect. Okay, so I've got a few more questions for you. So, first of all, you're a solo founder, right? And this has been also a huge topic on the podcast, right? And I reached out first because of the Code Talks conference. I know you were a guest, a speaker there before. So there is a community, very kind of nerdy, techie community out there. And you said that you're building your own community. But what about, other founders, or like how are you handling just the fact that you're a solo founder? Do you try to reach out to others? Is there support in the indie hacker community, or maybe you're just fine?
So before I even started, I was following, some indie hackers that I think everybody knows, Peter Levels and these people, and read founder stories and things like that. And I wanted to balance the exposure to the ways of how people build companies. There are the news with the big VC announcements, we raised 10 million, blah, blah, blah. And there are indie hackers on Twitter that share what they do in like an open startup fashion. And I learned so much from them that and got motivated to even try bootstrapping, to try it myself, etc., and go for this like minimal approach. And even if it's a side project that does 500 euros or 5,000 euros a month, it would still be great for me. I could still invest more. It would still, put like put me on a path to a little bit more freedom. So I learned so much from them that I thought I can give back if I share my journey from the beginning. Like, and that's what I did via YouTube, via Twitter. I shared every win, every failure, what I'm building, the strategies behind it, etc. So I was very, very open with all of that. And this obviously attracted other founders who try the same, people who are in the same stage as me in the journey or earlier and try to get there. So there was a natural progression in me sharing and building kind of an audience, a little bit at least, on Twitter. And then I started a German podcast to talk about the experiences that I had after like 2 years of building it. And I tried other projects as well. So I'm sharing everything that I learned via the podcast. So yes, I'm talking a lot to founders, and I love that. It motivates me a lot. And if some became friends here in Hamburg, and if we meet and we talk about their companies or my company or projects or problems or whatever, I always come out more motivated. I always come out with more insights and things like that. So I think this is crucial for any founder because it's a really tough journey, and anything that motivates you, anything that gives you inspiration, new angles of how to approach stuff is great. Could be consuming this podcast here, could be reading on Twitter from other founders, could be meeting founders, whatever. So I try to, like, I even have, it's not a joke, I have a reminder that comes up every month or every 2 months in my to-do list app that says surround yourself with people you look up to, and then a list of these people. So, and when this comes up, I'm reaching out to someone and asking if we can meet next week or if we can have a phone call or things like that, because I know that it's good for me and my motivation. Being a solo founder in general, would I wish to have a co-founder? Sometimes, yes. So if I meet, the Charlie Munger of me being Warren Buffett or whatever, I would love to have or meet someone I can build companies for the rest of my life with. This kind of thing. If people find that, I'm very happy for them and jealous or envy or whatever you call it. But I would love to have that as well. But I'm also someone who doesn't like to be dependent on other people. And I would never start a company with someone I don't know, because it's like a marriage. You spend more time with them than anyone else for the next 10 years. And I need to know them, trust them. And if I'm going into a company with the desire to make it big or make it successful and things like that, I don't want to have it fail because of a disagreement. And I don't have statistics on this, but at least from what I heard, a lot of startups, if not all, fail because of like some founder disagreement. And if I see companies that have 3 founders, 4 founders, things like that, I'm always like, I'm
That's
skeptical
tough to
of that.
navigate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical. And obviously, there are things that work very well, but I didn't want to take that risk. Except obviously, if I start a company and I absolutely need that. If I couldn't program, I would need a CTO. There is no point in creating a business with a technical product and not having a CTO as a founder. So if I couldn't program, I would try to find a CTO. If I would go B2B, if I would create a new company and that is completely B2B, either I accept that I have to do sales, or if I go into a very specific niche. Let's do any example. Let's say I'm building a company that does software for tax stuff. I should have an accountant or a tax advisor or someone like this as a co-founder. I think that knows the industry very well. Maybe it's not necessary, but at least I would think about it and see if I could find someone or know someone and things like that. But if I can do it alone, I would try that first, because I don't know how to say that, but I don't like the risk of a company that you build and that might be successful fail because of founder disagreement. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a stupid reason, in my opinion, to have the
Yeah,
company fail.
that's true. That's true. That would be a bummer. But that's a great tip to like have a reminder, like go out there. Don't just sit in your bubble. Find people that are, I don't know, one step further or even at the same stage, but just like talk to them. See what they're doing or building or whatever. Well, that said, hopefully you get a reminder in May because we are doing we're doing an event with SaaS Group. So you're warmly welcome there. There will be a lot of super exciting founders there. You'll have a lot to talk about. Okay, so just a couple more questions. First one is, so far, what has been the biggest win and the biggest failure? Or maybe, not a failure, but a challenge.
Mhm. Biggest win, it's tough because the goalpost always changes when things grow. But if I try to think back, the first thing was obviously first revenue. It was for me the first time I built a side project with the clear goal of making at least some money and trying this. And when the first revenue came in, first euro, first €5, and the first few customers, that was I don't know, a moment of enlightenment. Let's put it this way, because you can build something on your own. You just need a laptop, internet. You can build something to make a side income or whatever and sell stuff on the internet. This obviously everyone knows that, but to make it happen, that was a true win for me. And the biggest fail, I think, was to ignore marketing for 2 years. It's not that it hurt Paquet. I think maybe, I mean, there might be opportunity costs there, probably, but I think I would do it differently in the next one. Let's put it this way. If I would start again, I would have this in mind immediately. And I even think by now that doing marketing before and trying to find the customers and I mean, getting them on an email list and things like that is already validating the idea even before you start building. And if you can't do that, then how would you do it if you have the product? So you have to be able to create a landing page that compels people to put their email in. and just as a basic thing. So I would start this before. So yeah, I think this is the biggest fail. There are a few more, I would say not biggest, but small ones with
Mhm.
employees building a team and things like that. But yeah, so just so I don't leave people hanging, one thing I can totally recommend if you start building a team, if you look at people to join your team, are two things. First of all, always put in writing exactly the agreement you have, because there will be people, if you start slow and share everything, people will be reaching out and offering help, which is fantastic. But if you just accept the help and they help for free or whatever, and things become successful, expectations grow. And if you don't talk about them, then at some point this will crash, because expectations are totally different. And I had this at least with one person, and I regret that. And I will not, I will never invite someone to work with me if we are not made perfectly clear what is in for them, what is in for me, and how do we part ways and things like that. And the other one is to simply listen to your gut. If you talk to a person and you have a bad gut feeling, there is usually a reason. If you even if you can't pinpoint it, it doesn't matter how talented they are. If you have a bad gut feeling, just don't do it. Especially if it's the first person or the first five people, such a small team. If you have one person that that is not that doesn't fit, it can break down the entire team. So it was not
Yeah.
that I had a very bad experience with this, but it's something I learned along the way. Let's put it this way.
Right, right. Something you learn to trust after a while. I think
Yeah.
I've read somewhere that HR managers actually need only like 40 seconds to assess a person and see like if it's a good fit for the company and company culture. So I guess, well, you can call that gut feeling, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there is a lot of bias in there, and I remember from Stripe, the trainings that I had in interviews to not get, be biased and not do a lot of small talk and all of this stuff. So obviously, initial impressions can be wrong. That I think is a given. But on the other hand, if you are a one person team and you hire your first person, you are not, in my opinion, you don't owe anyone to assess everything and ignore your biases and all of that HR has to do with a 5,000 people company. You are a one person and you are searching for someone you can spend 8 hours, 10 hours a day with to build something. You better fit very well. So in this case, I think, if you have a bad feeling, you have a bad feeling. And you shouldn't feel guilty to maybe say no to someone, even if it's just a feeling or something and you can't directly pinpoint it. After all, it's your project and the team is too small to ignore, or
Right.
to work without each other or something like this. This changes with 20 people and things like that, but in the beginning, I
Mhm.
think it's super important.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. All right, and the last question, it's for hack, right? If you can share a
Mhm.
hack. Well, I guess you kind of shared it right now with the team and with finding your product market fit and your awesome strategy with the influencers, but maybe you have something else, maybe for sustainable growth, maybe the way to, break into SEO, even if, you haven't been doing it from the very beginning, how to, is it even possible to do that? So yeah, anything that helped you immensely that was maybe not that conventional.
Yeah, there are two things that I think I can share that are not conventional, but for this SEO part, because you asked it, I can at least give one tip when getting started
Sure.
with it. And that is, so what we try to do is not like, to this day, we don't try to convert the traffic. The only thing we focused on is, do we fulfill search intent? So if people look for Apple dividend March 2024 and they arrive at a site of ours, are we delivering what they are looking for? That is the only thing we cared about. We don't even try to convert the traffic until now. We said, once we have this threshold, so much traffic via Google, then we will try to. So that I can recommend. It sounds boring, but that is, I think, the best way to also there's a lot of stuff changing in search, and I'm
Oh
not,
yeah.
an algorithm expert or something like this, but that's also the biggest factor for Google. If you deliver search intent, if people find what they are looking for. So that was what we were focusing on, and so far it really works well. Okay, but other hacks,
Yeah.
I don't think these are, revolutionary or something, but from talking to customers, talking to founders, I know that not a lot of founders consider it, or I don't know, execute it at least. And that is one thing, especially true for technical founders: only solve problems when they hurt. If you're bootstrapped, time and energy and, focus is the biggest thing you need to have. And if you don't have a customer, don't try to solve international invoice, blah, 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 automation or something like this. Ignore it. Write manual invoices as long as possible until you write 10 invoices a day and it blocks an hour for you. Then you can start to automate it. Then you have a luxury problem to solve and to automate. So ignore all of those problems. I didn't have, for example, when we started Packet, or when I started Packet, there was no customer can change their email. There was no customer deletion button, account deletion button. They can reach out via email. That's totally fine. Then you can ask them why. And once you have 50 emails of users that want to delete their accounts per day, then either you are very big and you can solve it, or you have a massive problem. Then you better find out what the problem is. So don't solve these problems in the beginning, right? Just the absolute necessary thing to validate the business. All the other stuff can wait. And the second is, I'm a fan of hyper localizing, or at least hyper niche. So again, if you're bootstrapping, what do you want to be? A small fish in a huge market, huge pond, where basically you are just a feature for a larger player? Or do you want to be the best and dominate a small niche? And I'm a fan of dominating the small niche, especially because those niches are still like multi-million-dollar markets. So for us, we still don't have an English version of the website. That's why you had to ask me what the correct translation is of
Yes.
our product and focus. And the reason is, if we start to create an English version, I have to support international banks, international taxes, because these are investors. They need to know how many taxes they pay. I need to support how their federal tax administration calculates the taxes you pay on dividends and realized gains and things like that. So in putting out an English version comes with the expectation that we support the user's unique, let's say, finance environment. And that comes with a huge workload and cost and things we might not be able to do. So that's why we focus on the German market, DACH, Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, because we know the environment there, and it's big enough to go there. We still have a lot of growth ahead of us. The market is still there that we can um, gain more traction. So I think being the perfect solution for a small number of people is better than being an okay solution for a larger number of people. And again, especially if you bootstrap, I think picking your niche and going even further in is a very good way to start. You can always expand the niche later, as we did. We support now all of the currencies. We support not only stocks, but ETFs, cash, crypto. We will build more assets as well. We will build all of the assets at some point. So you can always go into different dimensions. We will also internationalize at some point. But I mean, we have over 3 years in now, and we still don't have an English version. And people think, "Are you
Right.
crazy?" And no, I'm not crazy. I want to be the best solution for the German market until we can serve another market very well. So that is something I think most founders, they feel like handcuffing themselves or handicapping
Mhm.
themselves or something. But I think it's a strength if you're bootstrapped. If you are VC funded, then obviously VCs expect the high returns, and you need to dominate, the all of the markets. So it's a
Yeah,
different PR game, let's put it this way. But yeah, for bootstrappers, I
that's
would
true.
totally recommend it.
Okay, perfect. So, all right, I really like those hacks. I will add them to the rest of them that you shared today. I think they will make a great case for bootstrappers like you. So, thank you, Sumit. I mean, it's been a great conversation. I mean, I've learned a lot about you, about Paquette, about the way you do it successfully, and excited to see where you're at in May, hopefully. Maybe then in code talks, yes, fingers crossed in fall. So yeah, happy to to support you guys in any way, and do an episode again sometime.
Thanks. I would love to, and looking forward to Code Talks. Yeah, thank you for the invitation, Anna.
Sure, anytime, Sumit, and take care.